160 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Amazing! The strongest heavenly Tao sage was only worth 4 billion years of lifespan. It was obvious how strong Dijun was. Continue! Hanju silently made his choice. Not for the time being. What did it mean by that? Could it be that there would be danger after entering the dream? Hanju continued to ask. This dream will not be dangerous for the time being. Hanju stopped when he saw this. Dijun was still spamming away. Hanju chose to accept the dream. In the blink of an eye, he came to a dark universe. To be precise, it was a hall. It only revealed the images of the stars in the universe. It was magnificent. Hanju saw Dijun sitting in front of a translucent chessboard. Dijun was as his name implied. He was indeed handsome and had a smile on his face. He had the calm temperament of a benevolent lord. He was quite different from the legendary image. At least in his impression, Dijun should be very dignified. From the portrait, he was not so gentle. Hanju walked over and bowed. After all, the other party was his elder brother. He had to be polite. Dijun sized him up and praised him. I didn't expect the heavenly Tao to have someone like you who used your strength to attain the Tao. You're really impressive. Hanju said humbly, compared to a mighty figure like you, I'm nothing. Although I don't know who you are, this dream makes me feel that you are unfathomable. I'm amazed. Dijun stroked his beard and smiled. The two of them began to exchange pleasantries. Hanju hated pleasantries the most, but the other party was far stronger than him. He could only be polite. He silently used the simulation trial to copy Dijun's cultivation. After a long while, Dijun returned to the topic. I came to visit you in your dreams this time. It's regarding the great Tao immeasurable calamity. According to the Tao ancestors' message, the primordial fiend celestial will rise in the immortal world and lead the chaotic fiend celestials to engulf the great Tao. You are another variable. You're either the primordial fiend celestial or the person with the greatest hope of resisting it. Hanju asked in surprise, what is a primordial fiend celestial? Before the creation of the world, there was chaos. Before chaos was the primordial chaos. You can understand it as a generation older than Pango and the Tao ancestor. We suspect that before the birth of chaos, there was a flourishing era that was even more prosperous. It was the era of the primordial fiend celestial. However, for some reason, the primordial chaos shattered and created chaos. After that, chaos stepped on the path of the primordial chaos and was torn apart by the chaotic fiend celestials, producing the great Tao and the heavenly Tao. So the primordial fiend celestial is very strong? That's right. I'm not a primordial fiend celestial, and I don't want to fight it. It's too dangerous. Hanju frowned and looked very nervous. Dijun wasn't surprised. He smiled and said, no one is stronger than you in the current heavenly Tao. The primordial fiend celestial shouldn't have grown yet or even been born. Hanju asked in surprise, since it's not born yet, why are you looking for me? To remind me? To kill the primordial fiend celestial in its infancy? That's right. Dijun's gaze became sharp. Hanju felt an indescribable pressure. This pressure was not strong enough, but it made him very uncomfortable. Dijun stared at him and said, Hanju, do you dare to accept this mission? If you succeed, I will give you an unparalleled opportunity to escape the illusion. Escape the illusion? Hanju suddenly recalled that many years ago, when he dreamed of a giant, he had mentioned something similar. It was as if Hanju was in an illusion. His chapter is updat D by NOVE, E, L, by and Co M. Now that Dijun also said that, what did that mean? Hanju was about to ask when Dijun said, I know what you want to ask. Our realms are different. You will understand when you touch the great Tao. Hanju frowned. What are the characteristics of the primordial fiend celestial? Dijun shook his head. No one knows about the primordial fiend celestial. We who have attained the great Tao have never seen the primordial fiend celestial, either. The primordial fiend celestial is only a concept suggested by the Tao ancestor. Perhaps it doesn't really exist, but there will definitely be living beings leading the great Tao calamity. Just wait patiently. Hanju pretended to think. Who was the primordial fiend celestial? What could the primordial fiend celestial be? Hanju directly blocked his memories and didn't dare to remember that he was the primordial fiend celestial. Dijuan was an existence that surpassed sages. Hanju had to be careful. He even had to pretend in his mind. You can visit me if you come to the deity realm of the ruins of End in the future. After saying that, Dijuan waved his hand. The dream shattered. Hanju's consciousness returned to reality. He secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Who would go to the deity realm of the ruins of End? I'm finally invincible in the immortal world. How can I switch to a high-level map and get beaten up? It seems that I can't expose the primordial fiend celestial's identity. Otherwise, it will be too dangerous. Hanju thought silently. He even made up his mind not to leave the heavenly Tao. It was too dangerous outside. The heavenly Tao was still the best. He was about to break through. He could do whatever he wanted when he grasped the heavenly Tao's providence. The primordial fiend celestial who unifies the chaotic fiend celestials. Isn't that me? Hanju knew his limits. He would actually trigger the great Tao immeasurable calamity? Something was wrong. If that's the case, why does the Tao ancestor trust me, a variable? I want to know, does the Tao ancestor think I'm a primordial fiend celestial? It involves an existence that surpasses the system's limits. It is impossible to deduce. Amazing! Hanju raised his eyebrows. The Tao ancestor's realm was truly unfathomable. He had thought that the Tao ancestor was the limit of the heavenly Tao. He knew from Dijuan that it was far more than that. Hanju changed his mind and asked, who thinks I'm the primordial fiend celestial? 180 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Really? Hanju immediately chose to continue. A figure appeared in his mind, and lines of words appeared in front of him. 7 Tao Sage. This fellow. Hanju suddenly became nervous. The 7 Tao Sage's Dharma idol was in the Tao field. It was Zhou Fan. Could it be that the 7 Tao Sage was spying on him? Hanju immediately asked. 180 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Then, why does he think I'm a primordial fiend celestial? Yes. This time, his lifespan was not deducted. Hanju frowned and asked uneasily, is the 7 Tao Sage harming me? Not for the time being. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. For questions at once. Although 2 did not deduct his lifespan, it was still a lot. It had to be said that Hanju panicked just now. He could use a more perfect way to ask. Hanju immediately sent a voice transmission to Zhou Fan. Soon, he came to visit. Zhou Fan asked excitedly, Master, are you teaching me a mystical power? Hanju said calmly, you're already a Zenith Heaven cultivator. Do you want to go out and train? Zhou Fan was stunned. He asked in surprise, isn't it only possible for a pseudo-sage to go out? The heavenly devil calamity has been eliminated. The sages established the chaotic city in the 33rd heaven. The disciples of the various sects will go. I want you to represent the hidden sect. Chaotic city? All right. I'll go. Zhou Fan's eyes lit up, and he immediately replied. The 33rd heaven was the territory of the sages. Furthermore, this matter could represent the hidden sect. He could make contributions. Yes, prepare well. No need. I can go at any time. Hanju immediately waved his sleeve and sent him out. After Zhou Fan left, Hanju sent dreams to Qiu Shilai, the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Sect Master Tianju, Fuxishan, and Emperor Shao, telling them that Zhoufan would represent the hidden sect in the chaotic city. The reason why he informed all the sages was that Hanju was afraid that some sages would cause trouble and scheme against Zhoufan. Of course, even if they did, they couldn't defeat the 7 Dao sage. Hanju continued cultivating and made progress towards the mid-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. On the other side, in the 33rd heaven, at the edge of chaos, a lofty city stood in the darkness. Fog curled around it. Chaotic city. There was a tall tower in the city. At the top of the tower was a palace where all the sages gathered. Hanju sent a zenith heaven disciple here, Choshilai said. The other sages nodded. The south extreme heavenly venerate clicked his tongue in wonder. The hidden sect casually sent out a zenith heaven. Li Daokong is already the strongest in the immortal world. At this rate, the hidden sect will dominate sooner or later. Sect Master Tianju said calmly, isn't it good for them to dominate alone? This way, we can put away our ambition and cultivate in peace. It's just nice that we will support the hidden sect in the next calamity. If the heavenly Dao is in danger in the future, Hanju can also directly attack. Fuxishan and Emperor Shao nodded. The heavenly devil calamity caused their cultivation levels to decrease greatly. They needed a long time to recover. Choshilai smiled and said, perhaps this is a good thing. At least, we can put down our grudges. We can take care of that hidden sect disciple more as a form of goodwill. The matter of the heavenly devil also showed that Hanju is not the dark forbidden lord. With his strength, he could have waited for the Dao heavenly devil to kill us before attacking. The Dao heavenly devil was completely not his match. The other 4 sages still sighed. The Dao heavenly devil was not Hanju's match at all. Sect Master Tianju's eyes flickered. In that case, it can only be Li Mui. The south extreme heavenly venerate snorted. Right? He didn't even ask the 2 of us when he used the 3 pure sacred ancestor. The 3 schools of the Dao sect are all bullshit. Besides, if the heavenly Dao is gone, the greatest beneficent will be his Kiliocosm world. The little heavenly Dao will become the only heavenly Dao. The sages were unhappy when Li Mui was mentioned. Emperor Shao said, let's not talk about Li Mui. Let's talk about the chaotic city. Ever since the heavenly devils were eradicated, many spatial cracks have appeared in the chaos. I'm worried that the inauspicious evil will take the opportunity to infiltrate. Sect Master Tianju shook his head. Sage Jinan has a mystical power that can spy on the inauspicious evil. However, he has already gone mad. Chao Shilai frowned. He felt like an invisible hand was pushing all of this from behind. When they needed something, they discovered that they had long been plotted against by the mysterious enemy. It was all connected. Chao Shilai had never been so helpless. He felt that the enemy had already set up traps for him to jump into. We have to increase the immortal world's strength. We can't just rely on ourselves. The south extreme heavenly venerate suddenly suggested. Chao Shilai narrowed his eyes. Why don't we preach? The great Dao immeasurable calamity is coming. We can't stay passive anymore. Sure. All right. The sages agreed. In the Daoist temple, Hanju received 4 favorability notifications. The sages who were still well had become his good friends. This was in line with reality. The sages weren't stupid. How could they keep plotting when they couldn't win? Hanju didn't reject their hypocrisy. It just so happened that he could reduce some trouble and cultivate in peace. The sages' existence was still necessary. Although they fought openly and secretly, they could indeed maintain the order of the immortal world and even protect it. Time passed silently. Year after year passed. 300 years later. While cultivating, Hanju began to observe Su Qi in the primordial world. Su Qi's body had already completely condensed, but he was still curled up in the fiend celestial Qi, absorbing the surrounding chaotic Qi and nebulous primordial Qi. The chaotic Qi was born from the chaotic origin stone. The nebulous primordial Qi was born from Hanju's primordial fiend celestial physique. Apart from Su Qi, the other fiend celestial Qi did not condense into a body for the time being. Su Qi was currently in a healthy development state. There should be no more problems. Hanju looked at the reroll world. He had wanted to turn the reroll world into the first world of the primordial world, but it was somewhat unbearable with the nebulous primordial Qi's pressure. Hanju decided to let the reroll world out and become a huge world below the immortal world. After thinking, he took out the reroll world and let it float above his hand. He jumped out of the immortal world and arrived below it. With a sweep of his sage sense, he could already see more than 5,000 small worlds below the immortal world. Hanju put down the reroll world and obtained a portion of the heavenly Tao merit from the primordial world to fuse with the heavenly Tao Providence. The reroll world began to rapidly expand. Hanju sent a voice transmission to the white-robed Buddha asking him to be prepared. The white-robed Buddha asked nervously, "Then, are we still considered part of the hidden sect in the future?" "Yes, the reroll world is the hidden sect's first world." "All right." The white-robed Buddha heaved a sigh of relief. He wanted to cling to Hanju. There was another reason why he released the reroll world. Hanju wanted to use it to fight for Providence. At that time, the heavenly race would control the immortal world and the reroll world would control the mortal world. The heavenly Tao's Providence would all belong to Hanju, and the heavenly Tao could forget about plotting against him. After the reroll world completely fused with the heavenly Tao merit and the Providence placed on the heavenly Tao again, Hanju returned to the 100-peak immortal river. He sent a voice transmission to the 3 pure sacred ancestor, telling him to infiltrate the reroll world and protect it. In any case, this fellow had nothing to do. The 3 pure sacred ancestor immediately headed to the reroll world. After doing all of this, Hanju relaxed a lot. He began to look forward to the reroll world's future. It had to be said that the feeling of plotting was somewhat satisfying. Was this the reason why the sages were so tireless? He continued to cultivate. 800 years passed quickly. Hanju finally broke through. Mid-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. His dermic powers began to increase. Hanju checked his attributes panel as he consolidated his cultivation. Name, Hanju. Race, primordial fiend celestial, immeasurable emperor. Cultivation, mid-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm, perfect sage. Technique, primordial chaos reincarnation great Tao, heavenly cycle body tempering. Great Tao of life and death, great Tao of karma, great Tao of extreme origin. His lifespan had increased by nearly 4 times. Not bad. Next, Hanju spent 70 years stabilizing his cultivation. His understanding of the great Tao of extreme origin deepened. He even felt that he could use it to create a mystical power. Hanju first spent half a year raising all the Sword Tao mystical powers to the limit. Just as he was about to continue cultivating the grand unity aspect, a loud and solemn voice resounded through the world. Your F-Vorite stories on O, V, LBN, CM. We sages have decided to choose a new sage in 10,000 years. This sage needs to possess great merit and cultivation. Regardless of sect or race, all living beings can fight for it. Fuxishan's voice sounded. They were going to choose a new sage so quickly? Hanju wasn't interested. No matter who became a new sage, they couldn't defeat him. Wait! Where did this primordial purple chi come from? Hanju checked his emails and indeed, he saw an email. Your enemy, Sage Fated Secrets, was killed by the sages, who severed the providence of the heavenly Tao. Sage Fated Secrets' portrait had already disappeared. The former Sage Fated Secrets was also considered one of the top existences among sages. Unfortunately, he had offended Hanju. If not for Sage Fated Secrets bewitching Su Qi, how would he have embarked on a path of no return? However, that was karma. Sage Fated Secrets had been cursed by him but was killed by other sages. Hanju had a deeper understanding of the sages. The most up-to-date novels are published on Zio, Velj, and Ko M. These sages' attitudes changed extremely quickly. They could treat you well at one moment and harm you at the next. Hanju couldn't trust sages easily. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He began to cultivate the grand unity aspect. 48 years passed. Hanju had grasped a total of 50 fiend celestial Dharma idols until he couldn't learn new ones. The fiend celestial Dharma idols he grasped were respectively, the Lone Star Fiend Celestial, the Inner Direction Fiend Celestial, the Silver Hatred Fiend Celestial, the Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial, the Heartless Fiend Celestial, the Transmogrification Fiend Celestial, the Ultimate Ean Fiend Celestial, the Love Fiend Celestial, the Viridescent Nether Fiend Celestial, the Black Sea Fiend Celestial, the Ultimate Fire Fiend Celestial, the Grand Desolate Fiend Celestial, the Past Injury Fiend Celestial, the Great Kiliocosm Fiend Celestial, the Subspace Fiend Celestial, the Heavenly Devil Fiend Celestial, the Restless Fiend Celestial, the Single Thought Fiend Celestial, the 18 Sun Moon Fiend Celestial, the Illusion Fiend Celestial, the Divine Fiend Celestial, the Spirit Chi Fiend Celestial, the Origin Sand Fiend Celestial, the False Reality Fiend Celestial, the Destiny Fiend Celestial, the Ultimate Origin Fiend Celestial, the Extreme Minute Fiend Celestial, the Earth Fiend Celestial, the Vitality Fiend Celestial, the Voltage Fiend Celestial, the Great Emperor Fiend Celestial, the Curse Fiend Celestial, the Imprisonment Fiend Celestial, the Primal Demon Fiend Celestial, the Tao Tai Fiend Celestial, the Magus Fiend Celestial, the Myriad Treasure Fiend Celestial, the Fake Truth Fiend Celestial, the Four Seasons Fiend Celestial, the Madness Fiend Celestial, the Evil Fiend Celestial, the Zither Music Fiend Celestial, the Undying Fiend Celestial, the Indestructible Fiend Celestial, the Guardian Fiend Celestial, the Wall Barrier Fiend Celestial, the Universe Fiend Celestial, the Giant Fiend Celestial, the Heavenly Charge Fiend Celestial, and the Omniscient Fiend Celestial. He had accumulated a total of 124 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols. Hanju had his own understanding. He felt that the source of everything might be the chaotic Fiend Celestial. Perhaps this was the inheritance. Even if the chaotic Fiend Celestials were already legends, they were everywhere in the world. Then, Hanju entered the simulation trial. He first attacked Tao Heavenly Devil. As his understanding of the Great Tao of Extreme Origin deepened, he felt that he could fuse with the Grand Unity aspect. He didn't have to fight in groups. If he could gather the power of all the Fiend Celestial Dharma idols and kill the enemy in one go, that would be even better. Hanju first summoned 124 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols and destroyed the Tao Heavenly Devil with absolute violence. The Tao Heavenly Devil only lasted for 10 breaths of time. Hanju began to try to fuse the power of the 124 chaotic Fiend Celestials in battle. This process was very difficult because the power of the Great Tao was on par with each other. Just like that, Hanju was immersed in the simulation trial. After bullying the Tao Heavenly Devil for half a year, Hanju could already easily insta-kill him. He began to challenge Dijuan. Then, he was blown up. Not convinced, he continued to challenge Dijuan. After hundreds of challenges, Hanju almost became depressed. He changed opponents again. Ancestor Shitian this time. He was completely depressed. These two were too impressive. Hanju began to set up the simulation trial. He set Qiushilai, Li Moyi, the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Sect Master Tianju, Sage Jinan, Fuck Sishan, Emperor Shao, and Sage Fated Secrets as his opponents. 1 against 8. Too close. They were easily suppressed. The 8 sages had tacit understanding when they joined forces, but Hanju had even more Fiend Celestial Dharma idols. They were all destroyed in less than 10 breaths of time. Hanju's Fiend Celestial Dharma idols could already sever the Heavenly Tao's Providence. Apart from the increase in the number of Fiend Celestial Dharma idols, it was also related to his cultivation. Although he had only broken through a minor realm, there was a huge difference. Above the sage realm, every minor realm was enough to determine the strength. After nearly 100 simulation trials, Hanju finally found a way to insta-kill the 8 sages. Awesome! This time, Hanju could finally look down on sages. In the future, if any sage dared to speak to him coldly, they would be asking for a beating. In a good mood, Hanju decided to go out and relax. Currently, under the heavenly Tao, he was already invincible. He could relax a little. Hanju decided to visit his son. There was a vast amount of heavenly Tao merit hidden in the primordial world. He could resist the heavenly Tao's rejection as long as he wrapped it around his body. Of course, if he used the power of a sage, the heavenly Tao would still forcefully expel him. The other heavenly Tao sages couldn't do this because they relied on the heavenly Tao's providence. If they entered the immortal world without permission, the heavenly Tao inside and outside would reject them. It would be even more uncomfortable. South Dun region, human race, Moon Heart City. Han Tuo was watching the battle below at the battle arena. Moon Heart City occupied an area of thousands of kilometers and was considered one of the largest cities in the human race in this region. The cultivation culture was dense and there was more than one such battle arena. The 2 cultivators fighting on the platform were Grand Unity Earth Immortals. Even with the restriction isolating their dermic powers, the nearby people and cultivators were still shocked. Do you find it interesting to watch them fight with your cultivation level? A voice suddenly came from the side. Han Tuo turned around and saw an extremely ugly monk smiling at him. It was Hanju. He came to see his son in Sun Chang'an's past ugly appearance. Han Tuo frowned. Who are you? He had just become an immortal emperor not long ago. No one in the entire Moon Heart City could match him, but he couldn't see through this ugly monk in front of him. Han Ming had once told him that he had to be careful of Buddhist cultivators. Hanju smiled. I see that your providence is extraordinary, so I want to get to know you. I'm Crouching Dragon. People call me Young Phoenix. You can also call me Young Phoenix Crouching Dragon. What about you, young friend? Young Phoenix? Han Tuo frowned. He had never heard of this name. However, since the other party had no ill intentions, he couldn't slap a smiling face. I'm Han Tuo. Young friend, you don't have a sect at your cultivation level? There are no sects or schools. The immortal world is just a speck of dust. Oh? Do you want me to introduce you to a major faction? How big is it? How big do you want it to be? Have you heard of Li Dao Kong? Hanju blinked and said, I did. You want to join the human school? Han Tuo shook his head. I want to join the hidden sect and become the disciple of that immeasurable merit divine might heavenly sage. No, I can even take him as my grandmaster. Unfortunately, my cultivation level is too weak. It's said that the hidden sect has countless immortal emperors. A woman beside him looked at Hanju and his son in surprise. Such bragging. He called himself an immortal emperor. He even mentioned the immeasurable merit divine might heavenly sage. The woman's eyes revealed disdain. Hanju said, the hidden sect is too difficult. I can't do it. How about the heavenly race? Han Tuo was surprised. This ugly monk really had a way? He shook his head. The heavenly race belongs to the immortal gods. I don't want to enter. Hanju was interested. This kid hated immortals? Just as he was about to ask, a line of words suddenly appeared in front of him. Detected bearer of Connate Providence, check its origin. Hanju was stunned. It had been a long time since such a notification appeared. Ever since he had attained the Tao, even if it was the reincarnation of a sage, it might not be able to catch the system's attention. He immediately chose to check. Jieyu, early stage Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm, one of the clones of Transcendent Tao expert Jade Bodhi. Hanju's eyelids twitched. This was a clone, not a Dharma idol, let alone a reincarnation. In other words, Jade Bodhi's main body was using Jieyu's perspective to stare at him? Hanju pulled out his interpersonal relationships and found the Jade Bodhi. Jade Bodhi, cultivation unknown. Transcendent Tao expert. The first Bodhi that cultivated to success under the heavenly Tao. Primordial ancestor of the Buddhist sect. He has always lived in the dark forbidden zone. Because you were praised by ancestor Shitian, he has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 1 star. After hearing the Tao in the Great Ultimate Hall, ancestor Shitian, Dijuan, 7 Tao Sage, and Jade Bodhi had a favorable impression of him. He thought that the 4 of them were playing mahjong. As a transcendent Tao expert, Jade Bodhi was definitely not inferior to a great Tao sage. Hanju used the simulation trial to detect Jiayu's existence, but he didn't look over. Jiayu was a young man with a graceful appearance. He wore black hair and white clothes and was not considered outstanding in the crowd. Pretending not to see him, Hanju asked Han Tuo with a smile, "Do you hate immortals?" Han Tuo replied, "It's not hatred. I just feel that there's no need for us humans to believe in immortals. When humans were in danger, the immortals and gods did not help. When humans were powerful, the immortals wanted their faith. I don't like immortals or gods." Hanju sighed secretly. This kid was still not like him. It was not a good thing to speak without thinking. If he was too stubborn, he would easily cause trouble. Although Han Tuo had never relied on Hanju all these years, he had more or less borrowed some of his influence. This was normal. How could one rely solely on themselves in life? 110, why don't we find a place to chat? Hanju asked with a smile. Han Tuo hesitated for a moment but still nodded. The other party had a mysterious background and had no ill intentions. It wasn't a bad thing to befriend him. The father and son left. Hanju was cautious and discovered that Jiayu didn't follow. The father and son came to an inn and began to talk freely. Their relationship became closer and closer. Coincidentally, 2 hours later, Jiayu also arrived at the inn, at the table beside them. Hanju pretended to ignore him. The father and son continued chatting. Han Tuo suddenly asked curiously, "Crouching Dragon, what's your cultivation level?" Han Tuo had become an immortal emperor after cultivating for 9,000 years. He was also considered knowledgeable. This stinky monk in front of him was unfathomable. He was definitely not only a realm higher than him. Hanju smiled and said, "My cultivation level is not important. We only met once. If you have no choice in the future, you can visit the heavenly court or the heavenly race. They will accept you." With that, he stood up and prepared to leave. Han Tuo hurriedly stood up and asked, "You're an immortal god?" Hanju disappeared after saying, "I'm neither an immortal nor a god. I'm just a spectator outside the mortal world." Spectator? Han Tuo was impressed. At this moment, Jiayu suddenly stood up and walked over with a smile. "Brother, can I join you?" Han Tuo looked at him and frowned. Why did another come after just one left? Hanju returned to the Taoist temple and immediately asked silently, "Why did Jade Bodhi send Jiayu to approach my son? 160 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue." Hanju entered the illusion. He came to a vast and bright palace. The hall was surrounded by clouds, and golden light shone. He looked up and saw countless Buddhas. Some were lying on lotus thrones, some were leaning against ferocious beasts, some were reciting the scriptures with their eyes closed, and some were crying. All of them had their own expressions and postures. IT. Read latest OVLS at NVEL by Calm. Hanju's gaze landed on the Jade Bodhi. Jade Bodhi was the only Taoist here. He sat on the 72nd grade white lotus throne with a transcendent attitude. Hanju showed a frown. What was this place? Buddhist sect? A Buddhist sect higher ranked than the immortal world? Beside the Jade Bodhi was a majestic figure. His entire body emitted strong light, and one could only see his outline. It was a huge Buddha with a slightly thin figure. The thin giant Buddha said, "Recently, the heavenly Tao's providence has weakened and the heavenly devils caused chaos. Although the danger has been resolved, signs of the great Tao immeasurable calamity already appeared. What do you think?" The Buddhas began to reply. Why care about the heavenly Tao? It's all superficial. There's already more than one heavenly Tao. We don't have to keep it in mind. The heavenly Tao is the beginning of everything. It's the foundation of the great Tao. We have to investigate it clearly. Does the so-called primordial fiend celestial really exist? Several chaotic fiend celestials have recently appeared in the ancient desolate. The era of the great battle is about to arrive. It's not a good thing for us to pay attention to the heavenly Tao now. The Buddhas had their own opinions. Although they spoke one after another, there was no commotion. Instead, it made people inexplicably calm as if they were preaching. Jade Bodhi slowly said, "Leave this to me. You don't have to care." The Buddhas quietened down. The illusion shattered. Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. The ancient desolate was in the deity realm of the ruins of End, which meant that the batch of Buddhas had come from there. So, Jiayu's arrival was to investigate the great Tao immeasurable calamity? Fortunately, I suppressed Han Tuo's bloodline and didn't completely release it. Hanju thought silently. He began to observe Han Tuo and Jiayu. The two of them sat at the table and started chatting. In the future, the two of them became closer and closer. They even agreed to barge into the immortal world together. Hanju didn't dare to act rashly and could only watch quietly. 3 years later, Jiayu and Han Tuo parted. The two of them were already close friends. However, Jiayu still had something to do and bid Han Tuo farewell. Hanju asked in his mind, "Does Jiayu think that Han Tuo is a primordial fiend celestial? 10 million years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue." "Not for the time being." Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as he did not suspect Han Tuo. As for Hanju, he wasn't afraid of hiding in the Tao field. Hanju adjusted his state of mind and continued cultivating. In any case, it was still a long time away from the great Tao immeasurable calamity. Ever since the sages announced that they were going to choose a new sage, the entire immortal world fell into a fanatical atmosphere. For the sake of great merit, almost all the mighty figures came out to set up schools, preach the Tao, establish order, create mystical powers, and so on. The immortal world was blooming everywhere, greatly advancing the progress of the heavenly Tao. The 100-peak immortal river was still calm. They didn't care about the sage position. In any case, they couldn't go out. 100 years passed quickly. On this day, a deafening sound came from the sky. Hanju opened his eyes and saw a huge three-legged golden crow leading countless demon soldiers and demon generals to the 13th heaven. The demon race was fighting the heavenly race. Hanju raised his eyebrows. Was this three-legged golden crow stupid? It was directly challenging the heavenly Tao race. Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce and his expression became strange. Ji Xianshan and his subordinates were not in the heavenly race. The immortals guarding the 13th heaven were from other Providence sects. Could it be that Ji Xianshan was colluding with the demons to kill them with a borrowed knife? Interesting. Hanju discovered that this group of demons had already reached a scale. There were more than 10 million demon soldiers. Although most of their cultivation was weak, at least their momentum was impressive. The battle lasted for decades. In the end, both the demons and the heavenly race were injured. Instantly, the demons' reputation soared. In the eyes of all living beings, the heavenly race was the strongest force. Hanju saw that the water released by the heavenly race was about to turn into a sea. After the battle began, all existences above the deity realm retreated. The cycle of reincarnation began and the demons were about to rise again. After the devil race, it was indeed the Magus race. Before the heavenly Tao restarted, the demons were also ranked behind the devil race. It wasn't such a coincidence. It was definitely fate. Although there was war, the development of the immortal world was indeed becoming better and better. The cultivation trend spread throughout the myriad worlds. Other than the ancient race, the demon race, and the heavenly race, many other races rose, looking like hundreds of flowers blooming. Not only that, but Hanju also observed that the immortal world was actually becoming larger. The boundary was constantly expanding towards the dark forbidden zone. The land quickly expanded. It was extremely magical. Hanju looked carefully and discovered that a sage's aura was everywhere in the immortal world. So, it was done by a sage. It wasn't difficult for him to recall the reason. The heavenly devil calamity had almost destroyed all living beings in the immortal world, making the sages realize how weak all living beings were. Hanju watched for a while before continuing to cultivate. Jade Bodhi and 7 Dao Sage brought him pressure. He could relax occasionally, but the main focus of his life had to be cultivation. Even if his talent was unparalleled, it would take a long time for him to be on par with the Great Tao. For example, how many calamities had Dijuan passed? Unimaginable. Immeasurable. Hanju's current target was the Freedom Sage realm. Although he was only at the mid-stage, he had to have ambitions. 230 years later, Hanju, who was cultivating, was interrupted by Liao, who came to visit him. Hanju let her in. Liao came in front of him and bowed. Sect Master, after stepping into the Zenith Heaven realm, my cultivation level has increased very slowly. I keep feeling that something is missing. Hanju said, you lack actual experience? Liao's personality was the same as his. After coming to the hidden sect, she did not go out again. What was different from him was that Liao did not have a system. Zenith Heaven was already the limit of living beings. Without opportunities, it was very difficult to improve. As for pseudo-sages, which one of them was not a peerless genius and unparalleled expert who stunned an era? Liao frowned. I don't want to go out. How can the greatest opportunity in the world compare to following you? Hanju asked, then, what do you think is missing? Visit Novubin. CM for the L-test updates. Liao took a deep breath and said, I've experienced training before I joined the hidden sect. I've experienced countless slaughters along the way in the immortal world. In my life, I might be lacking a companion. Companion? Hanju showed a frown. He understood the implied meaning. Hanju sized her up. It had to be said that in terms of looks, Liao was among the top among the women he had seen. Her temperament also made him admire her. Liao had never had a clear identity in the hidden sect. She wasn't Hanju's disciple, but her status was equivalent to a second-generation disciple. Hanju fell silent. Liao mustered her courage and stared at him. She had been suppressing these words for a long time. Ever since Hanju saved her and guided her to the hidden sect, feelings had long been buried. After a long while, Liao stood up and walked towards him. Under the Fusong tree, the black hell chicken looked at Hanju's Taoist temple and muttered, Why do I feel that woman wants to eat chicken? Tu Linger opened her eyes in anger. Crap! Too late! However, she didn't have the guts. After all, she was already Hanju's disciple. The status of master and disciple was like a huge mountain that made her not dare to cross the line. Dao Comprehension Sword asked curiously, Chicken? She wants to eat you? The black hell chicken rolled its eyes at her and said, You don't understand, silly grass. All you know is to cultivate. You should have been close, but unfortunately, you're too stupid. Its tone was disappointed. Dao Comprehension Sword stood up and drew her sword. The chaotic heavenly dog came to mediate, but it only added fuel to the fire. For a time, the Fusong tree was in chaos. It had been a long time since it was so lively. 7 years later, in the Taoist temple, Liao sat beside Hanju. Her clothes were clean, but her face was slightly red. Hanju said softly, Not bad. If your dermic powers fuse, You should be able to make a breakthrough. Li Yao nodded. Thank you, Sect Master. Your dharmic powers have guided me greatly. It's better than 10,000 years of bitter cultivation. Hanju shook his head. It's not that exaggerated. The two of them fell silent again. Li Yao stood up and bowed before leaving. Hanju suddenly stopped her and said, From now on, you're my Dao companion. You're the same as Xing Hongxian and Shen Qingjun. Remember, Xing Hongxian is the first. Don't cause trouble internally. Li Yao's brows lifted, and she immediately agreed happily. Several days later, Xing Hongxian came to visit. She didn't say anything and only pestered him for a year before leaving. Hanju couldn't help but look at the other women. Shen Qingjun, Fairy Xixian, and Chang Yuer were still cultivating. The three women usually kept a low profile. It was mainly because their potential was poor and they could only spend time. Perhaps because of the difference in cultivation, they were a little restrained when facing Hanju. He couldn't force them to do anything and let nature take its course. Hanju didn't have much desire for women. He was already a sage and didn't have to lower himself. Of course, the other disciples were all very smart. They didn't dare to act recklessly in front of the three women. Actually, it's not ridiculous to fuse yin and yang occasionally. Hanju thought silently and continued cultivating. In the next 100 years, Li Yao broke through to the mid-stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm and entered the top 3 again in the 100-year competition. This performance shocked the other disciples. They didn't know what Hanju had taught her. However, the threshold to become Hanju's Dao companion was too high. Just the gender was enough to make the other disciples give up. In the blink of an eye, 600 years passed. More and more immortal emperors appeared in the 100-peak immortal river. All members of the Nether race had stepped into the deity realm and were still far from the Zenith Heaven realm. However, 10,000 deity realm cultivators were enough to overturn all the forces in the world. On this day, Li Daokong returned, and Hanju moved him into the Taoist temple. All these years, Li Daokong had sparred with Shi Dudao from time to time. There were no longer any emails about him being severely injured. Sect Master, I encountered the heavenly race's patriarch, Ji Xianshen. He's in danger and hopes that the hidden sect can help. He's not the only one. Fang Liang is also trapped, Li Daokong said. Hanju asked, trapped by who? Great Loose Heaven. This person created the first mortal world and has more than 1,000 Grand Unity Golden Immortals under him. He's also at the late-stage pseudo-sage realm and has powerful mystical powers, Li Daokong replied. Hesitating for a moment, he added, the Chan school is behind him. The sages have expressed their goodwill to you. I don't know if Ji Xianshen and Fang Liang are disciples of the hidden sect now, so I didn't attack. Hanju wasn't dissatisfied. Instead, he was very satisfied. Li Daokong wasn't as rash as he had expected. He had thought it through. Hanju said, go find Han Yu and lead 1,000 Nether Zenith cultivators to save Ji Xianshen and Fang Liang. Send them safely to the heavens. It was time to fight for the heavenly Tao's Providence. In the immortal world, Hanju didn't have to do it personally. Li Daokong was secretly shocked. Such a huge move? He asked cautiously, that sage? Don't mind him. Understood. Li Daokong immediately made arrangements. An hour later, Hanju moved Li Daokong and 1,000 Nether Zeniths out of the Dao field. He then closed his eyes and resumed cultivating. He wasn't worried that the sages of the Chan school would have any objections. Strength was the only thing that mattered.